Hey guys, Luantha here, aka Lance634, and we finally made it. It's patch 10.1 for the Rift. This is officially the start of the season. Well, officially, normally they'll drop the patch, wait a couple days, and then enable the start of the season. So I believe it's the 10th that they're going to officially drop the season. But we'll be hitting the patch overnight tonight, and we'll get on into what we've got here. We got Set, the new champion, and we've got a new skin line called Mecha Kingdoms. So if you like your big robots fighting things, um, we got that. Um, there's also a Freljord Silas skin that follows his lore, so that's a cool little lore thing. And there's also a Prestige for Mecha Kingdoms Garen. Um, Here's the season start. Rank doesn't start until January 10th at 4 a.m. I don't know if that's Eastern or Pacific. I'm guessing it is Pacific since they're on Pacific time in Riot headquarters, but we'll have to see on that one. That'd be 7 a.m. Eastern for those of you on Eastern. Set's coming out. We're not going to get into his skills. He looks pretty cool. Um, Possibly pretty strong too. Um, we'll see how that shakes out. Aphelios. So Aphelios came out last patch, and they thought that he was going to be a low win rate at first, and turns out that he's actually not that hard to play. So they're doing a pretty big swing here, hitting his movement speed, which is always a big nerf, is taking away 5 movement speed. He's also losing 30 base health, so he's squishier early on. And then they're taking away the R Moonlight Vigil, Infernum Empowered AoE. So if you haven't seen the clips for this ult is literally being fired and one-shotting entire teams because it'd be 100% damage on secondary targets. Now it's going to be reduced damage to secondary targets. But again, this AoE can overlap, so I still think that you're going to see some really crazy one-shots come out with this. And honestly, I'm not sure if this even puts him out of pro play because the pros have been all over it. He's got a 227% ban rate in Korea, if you haven't seen that thread on Reddit. And that ban rate's entirely fueled by the fact that he has got this kit that's just extremely versatile that can fill so many roles and also, one-shot people. Erling Soul's getting a slight nerf. This is hitting his early game only. And he's been probably the #1 mid laner now for a couple patches, so this just falls in their framework of if something's strong in solo queue, for so many patches, they're going to hit it slightly, and this is that slight hit. Azir getting a ult damage nerf and the wall duration. I'm not sure. These are really good nerfs for Azir, I think. He gets a bigger level 11 spike, which has been arguably a weaker part of his kit, so hopefully this helps him out. But I'm scared because if you see after Azir, it's Corki, and that means Corki Azir meta, and that's our favorite meta, guys. It's not. All right, so Corki's getting a mid to late game buff also on his R, and that's 10 to 20. That's 10 to 20 extra base damage on that R, which is a pretty big deal actually for him. So hopefully this doesn't mean a Corki Azir meta, but I have little faith in our pro players. Jax, they're bug fixing his R, so it works with Ginsu's. Jax mains Rejoice. Jace is getting 5 more damage per rank in his Q. And this is a very minor change. I mean, any extra damage is worth, but at the same time, it's a pretty small change. But ideally, this will make pro players more interested in playing him. But we'll have to see how that shakes out in the long run. Callista's still getting buffed. Riot's pretty hell bent on getting Callista to be solo queue viable, which means I think when pro play kicks off, she's going to probably be really oppressively OP, because that's just how Callista's always worked. I mean, maybe not, but getting another, what is that, 20 more health growth and another half an armor, Callista's going to be a tanky girl now hitting late game, which is interesting. Cassidy is again also seeing the biggest nerf in League of Legends, the 5 movement speed reduction, and it's about time. Honestly, his movement speed shouldn't be high. Yes, he's melee, but he has the R to move around. So this movement speed decrease should have hit a lot earlier. Um, and honestly, he's been so he's been above 50, I think, for a couple patches, and it's been like on that fringe of just becoming Casa Win all over again. And I'm really surprised that this is all they're hitting on him right now. Um, there could be more coming here, but 5 movement speed again, that's a huge nerf. Kog'Maw R, this is just a debuff fix along with Kassadin debuff fixes for the mana cost. Mordekaiser. So Mordekaiser's got a small nerf to his passive. It's losing 1 second duration, and it's flattened out the movement speed. Um, this is pretty big because he's really losing a lot of that level 6 power that he was relying on and level 11 power, but honestly, it was just he had too much movement in for a Juggernaut, which they go over here. So, overall good change. Nami, this is just a fix up for her E, giving it so it works on abilities too. So that's quite a nice little buff for Nami there. That really doesn't too badly affect her or make her win rate go up per se, but it's a nice buff to have. Sejuani is getting a bunch of health growth. Her passive's getting tuned up for more bonus armor and magic resist, and her E's getting more damage. And a lot of that is because the game sped up a little bit this off season with the elemental drakes, and her early game was just too weak. So hopefully, I mean, this doesn't really hit her early game. This is hitting more of her mid to late. So it'll be interesting to see if she's viable as that super tank. Shyvana is getting a huge fix in that she's going to be a champion again. Um, she'll be getting her 5 permanent bonus magic resistant armor for every elemental drake and dragon that her team kills. And then the Cloud Drake is an even bigger buff now on her because her Fury gangs are increased. Because, again, the ultimate has no cooldown. It makes sense that would be doing that. Um, and honestly, she's been in a pretty rough place since they did the Elemental Drake changes, so this is a really good buff for her. And then her E is getting another 0.5% of the target's max health with more marked damage increase for the monsters, so she's going to clear a little faster, and she'll do a little more damage if she hits that E. So overall, this is a pretty nice buff for Shyvana, and it'll be cool to see her back on the Rift a little more consistently. I don't know if this is going to mean that you're going to see more AP Shyvana, because I've been hearing grumblings that that's a little strong. But we'll see on that. But at least uh, baseline Shyvana should be a lot better. Sylas, a lot of changes to Sylas here. We're gonna go through them really fast. They're pulling power out of the early game, putting it into some scaling for him on all of his stats. Um, and then they're changing up scalings throughout his kit. His passive has more AP but less of a range. He gets attack speed when it's available. It holds more stacks to 3 now. It executes minions below 25 health so you don't miss CS randomly. And that minion execute will probably get diminished as this change stays live longer. It's probably more of a quality of life to make sure, hey, you get used to this. But then changes up and down the board as Q hits harder, more AP scaling. Minion damage reduction is 60% from 45. Can't be cast during E anymore, which is pretty big nerf. It's a much more telegraphed ability, so it hits harder. It no longer slows enemies hit also, so that kind of is there. They took away all of his basic attack resets from all of his abilities that he had, and really, there's a lot more bursts in here, and he's more of a mage than a bruiser fighter, if that makes sense. So it'll be interesting to see, and yes, that is a 1-to-1 scaling on his E. So get prepared for that insane damage on his E. But again, there's no basic attack resets, so really all that weaving that you used to do isn't there anymore. So that's a pretty big nerf to the pro play aspect of it, while being able to buff the straight up damage for solo queue. Poke Varus is getting a buff here, 2 seconds down on his Q, and then the Blight Reduction's only 3 now. But still, that's a nice buff for Varus in general, and if you run Poke Varus like I still like to run, then it's going to feel really good. Vi is getting some more unstoppable frames in her ult, but that's it. So no longer you'll be in midair knocking someone up and get flayed out or something stupid. That doesn't. You got all those extra unstoppable frames. Zyra, her Vine Lasher can now stack slow up to 2 times for up to 50% slow, but only one is going to do a less slow. So this is going to really. This is empowering good Zyra players to hit 2 E plants. It's weakening Zyra's pickup ability and just let's play it and let's just poke someone down and make their life miserable. So honestly, it's more of a skill expression on Zyra, which is cool because she doesn't have too much. There is some there, but it's not too crazy. Support items getting a lot of tuning here. Last patch they introduced these. They're basically adding base health regen and mana regen back onto these items while reducing all of their stats for most of the completed items because there's just too much stats coming into supports, and they were just playing as a second mage or a second carry. Like at that point, what's the role of support? Well, they're gonna take some of that stats out and make it so it's in regen because regen is going to impact your early game, which is the point of support is you make the play early and then you make the play later, obviously, but the early game you're really setting the tone, and that's what this is really aimed at, is you're setting the tone more. Runes Conqueror is going to have the proper healing display in the tooltip, which is cool. And Omnistone, again, getting that buff also. It's now 2 less seconds per Omnistone reroll. So at some point, this is going to work. At some point, they're going to make Omnistone viable, and it's going to get broken. But we'll see where that is. I don't know if this is it, or if that's still in the future, but it's at some point it's gonna be strong enough. Bug fixes, Warwick Q getting a bug fix. Ardent Sensor is no longer self-proccable if you shield yourself. Looking at you, Diana, shielding yourself and proccing Ardent Sensor on yourself. And then missile types that you couldn't normally see in your vision no longer give you an early warning. And this is a big deal because this is where you see Fog of War of Baron and Pro, and you're like, oh, there's things going on. They're definitely doing that. And the enemy team can see that sometimes. And you can look off screen and typically sometimes see these random projectiles. It's like an early warning in Fog of War. Well, those are going to be, hopefully, fingers crossed, Riot has figured out this bug. Because that's what it sounds like, is that they fixed that. We'll see if that's true or not, but I'm hoping that that's the bug that they fixed, and if it is, that's a really big one. And that's a lot of resources to fix something like that. And again, here's the skins. You got the new Mecha Kingdom skins sets coming out, and you've got the Mecha King's Garen Prestige, Freljord Silas in there for the lore, and of course your beautiful chromas if you so choose to get those too. But that's it for 10.1. Not too much, not too many changes. We've already been seeing the Drakes again. The preseasons when you normally see it, this is typically the tuning patch, and we've got tuning. There's a good bit of power being pulled out of support, just with that support item change, but not too much. And it's really pushing for hopefully a more early game. Let's do something in that bottom lane. Let's play proactive. Let's make plays. Well, I think this is pushing that, and I like it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. As always, you can follow me. The links are down in the description. And thanks for watching.